At 25, you feel like you're doing everything right. You've either just graduated or you're a few years into your first real job. You're earning your own money, maybe for the first time in your life. And there's this quiet sense of pride that comes with that. You can finally afford things you used to dream about: your own apartment, a decent phone, nights out with friends, maybe even your first vacation that you paid for yourself. It feels like progress. It feels like you've made it to the starting line of adulthood. But underneath that feeling, there's also something else. A subtle pressure. A sense that you need to keep up. Everyone around you seems to be upgrading their life at the same time. Better clothes, better gadgets, better experiences. And without even realizing it, you start building a lifestyle that matches your income. Not because you're irresponsible, but because it feels normal. It feels deserved. You worked hard, right? So why shouldn't you enjoy it? The problem is, almost no one tells you that this exact moment, this phase of your life, is where one of the most expensive mistakes quietly begins. Not a dramatic mistake. Not something obvious like gambling everything away. It's subtle, invisible. It doesn't feel like a mistake at all. In fact, it feels like living your life. But over time, this one pattern can cost you over $200,000 or more, and by the time most people realize it, they're already a decade deep into it. Here's what's really happening. At 25, your income starts rising for the first time in a meaningful way. Maybe you go from earning almost nothing to earning a stable salary. Then, over the next 5 to 10 years, that income slowly increases. Promotions, raises, job switches, it all adds up. But here's the catch. Your lifestyle tends to rise at the exact same pace. Every time you earn a little more, you spend a little more. A nicer apartment, a better car, more frequent dining out, subscriptions you barely notice. Small upgrades that feel harmless on their own. This is what economists call lifestyle inflation. And it's incredibly powerful because it doesn't feel like overspending. It feels like growth. Now let's put some simple math behind this. Imagine at 25, you start earning $1,000 a month after expenses. Instead of saving or investing most of that increase, you spend it. Over time, that extra $1,000 doesn't go into building assets, it disappears into consumption. Now, if you had invested just $500 of that monthly increase instead, and earned a modest average return over time, that money would compound. Over 10 years, that's not just $60,000 saved. It becomes something much larger because of compounding. And if you stretch that over 20 or 30 years, you're easily looking at a six-figure difference. That's where the $200,000 mistake comes from. Not from one bad decision, but from hundreds of small invisible ones repeated every month. The real cost isn't what you spend, it's what you never give the chance to grow. And this is where it gets even more important, because this isn't just about discipline or willpower. It's about how the system around you is designed. From the moment you start earning, you're surrounded by signals telling you to spend. Advertising, social media, even your peers. Success is constantly framed as visible consumption. The nicer your life looks, the more it seems like you're doing well. Nobody posts about their investment portfolio growing quietly in the background. Nobody celebrates delayed gratification in a way that feels exciting. So naturally, you optimize for what you can see, what you can enjoy now. And on top of that, the financial system doesn't exactly make investing feel simple or urgent. No one sits you down at 25 and shows you what compounding actually looks like over decades. No one makes the future feel real. So your brain does what it's wired to do. It prioritizes the present. Immediate rewards feel tangible. Future gains feel abstract. And that's not a personal failure. That's human psychology. Add to that the rising cost of living, student debt for some, family expectations, and the pressure to appear stable, and it becomes even harder to step back and think long term. So when people say, you should have just saved more, they're missing the bigger picture. The environment you're in is quietly pushing you in the opposite direction every single day. And unless you become aware of it, you'll follow that path automatically. But here's the good news. This mistake is completely reversible if you catch it early enough. The exit strategy isn't about extreme frugality or cutting out everything you enjoy. It's about breaking the pattern of automatic lifestyle inflation. Instead of letting every raise upgrade your lifestyle, you redirect a portion of it. Even 30% to 50% of every increase can make a massive difference over time. The key is to lock it in before you get used to spending it. Because once something becomes part of your lifestyle, it's incredibly hard to remove. The second part is automation. You don't rely on motivation every month. You set up a system where a portion of your income automatically goes into investments or savings before you even see it. This removes the daily decision-making that often leads to spending. And then there's awareness. You start seeing expenses not just as prices, but as trade-offs against your future. That $200 monthly upgrade, it's not just $200, it's what that money could have become over 10, 20, or 30 years. This shift in perspective doesn't mean you stop enjoying life. It means you start choosing intentionally. Some upgrades will still be worth it. Others won't. And over time, those decisions compound just like money does. Small shifts today create massive differences later. So if you're 25 or anywhere close to it, this isn't about regret, it's about clarity. Most people don't even realize this pattern exists until much later. The fact that you're seeing it now already puts you ahead. The goal isn't perfection. You don't need to optimize every dollar. You just need to avoid the trap of letting your entire financial future slip away through unconscious upgrades. Because the truth is, wealth isn't built through one big moment. It's built quietly, in the background, through consistent decisions that most people never notice. And the earlier you start, the less effort it actually takes. That's the part no one tells you. Time does most of the heavy lifting. You just have to give it something to work with. So the real question isn't whether you can afford that next upgrade. It's whether you're willing to trade a small part of your future for it. And once you start thinking that way, everything changes. And once everything starts to shift, something interesting happens. You begin to feel a different kind of progress. Not the loud, visible kind that shows up in photos or impresses other people, but the quiet kind that builds confidence underneath your life. You check your accounts one day and realize you're not starting from zero anymore. There's a cushion. There's momentum, and more importantly, there's optionality. Because that's what this is really about. The $200,000 mistake isn't just about money, it's about the doors that money could have opened for you later. The ability to leave a job that drains you. The freedom to take a risk on something meaningful. The space to handle emergencies without panic. When you spend everything you earn as it grows, you're not just buying things, you're slowly giving up those options without realizing it. But when you reverse that pattern, even slightly, you start reclaiming them. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong. They think the solution is to suddenly become a completely different person overnight. Extreme budgeting, cutting every expense, saying no to everything fun. But that usually doesn't last. It creates resistance, and eventually people snap back to their old habits. A better approach is to redesign your system so that your future self is automatically taken care of, while your present self still gets to live. Maybe that means you still go out with friends, but you skip the upgrades that don't truly add value. Maybe you keep your current lifestyle stable for a year, even if your income increases, and quietly redirect the difference. These aren't dramatic changes, but over time, they're powerful. Because consistency beats intensity in this game. There's also a mindset shift that makes everything easier. Instead of seeing saving or investing as losing money in the present, you start seeing it as paying your future self. And not in some abstract way, but in a very real, tangible sense. Every dollar you keep and grow is a small worker that continues earning for you, long after you've moved on from the effort it took to earn it. And when you stack enough of those workers together, They begin to carry part of your financial life on their own. That's when things start to feel lighter. That's when you're no longer trading all of your time just to maintain your lifestyle. If you zoom out, this entire idea challenges something most people never question. The assumption that as you earn more, you should spend more. That's the default path. It's what almost everyone around you is doing. And because it's so normal, it feels safe. But normal doesn't always lead where you want to go. In fact, for many people, it leads to a cycle where no matter how much they earn, they always feel like they need just a little more to feel secure. That feeling doesn't come from income, it comes from how much of that income you keep and grow. So if you take one thing away from this, let it be this: the most important financial decision you make in your 20s isn't about picking the perfect investment or finding some secret strategy. It's about controlling the gap between what you earn and what you spend as your income grows. That gap is where your future lives. And every time you protect it, even in small ways, you're building something that most people only wish they had later. Because one day, you'll look back at this phase of your life, and it won't be the phone you upgraded or the extra dinners out that stand out. It will be whether you gave yourself a head start or whether you let time slip by unnoticed. The difference between those two paths can easily be $200,000 or more. But more importantly, it's the difference between feeling stuck and feeling free. And the best part is, you don't need to be perfect to get there. You just need to be aware, intentional, and willing to pause before every automatic upgrade and ask yourself a slightly better question. Not can I afford this, but what is this costing my future? That one question, repeated over time, has the power to completely change your trajectory.